How's it going, my friends? It's Carpo here. I'm sitting in my office thinking about things. This is where I do my videos, and was trying to figure out how I was going to address this video, which is more or less about the ideals and the situation surrounding Jordan Peterson. So I should start off by saying this video is not an attack on Jordan Peterson at all. And it's not an attack on liberals or conservatives or any one side. In fact, it's a call to everyone to see the silliness in much of the division, but more than that, the silliness in many of the things that we focus on. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is because several of my subscribers and people that I've met online elsewhere have said, "Hey, what do you think of Jordan Peterson?" And the other day somebody left a comment and said I should watch the interview with Kathy Newman, who was interviewing him, and she's a journalist. And I kind of blew it off and was like, well, you know, whatever. I agree with a lot of the guy's points, but it's just, you know, I'm not that interested in it. I couldn't remember who had left the comment. I was going to respond back to it, but I ended up going and watching that interview because it wasn't too, I think it was like a day after I discussed that he came back on Joe Rogan the other day, and I watched the entire interview. Now, kind of to give you an idea, when somebody, months back told me about Peterson, I spent several hours listening to his work, his lectures and whatnot. And I said, okay, well, this guy's really smart, he knows a lot of things, but I feel like he's a little just too frustrated about the wrong things for me to be interested. So I hung it up and ignored it for a while. And then people kept coming and asking me what I thought of Peterson again. And so I figured it was time to address it again. So after I watched the Rogan interview, then I went and watched the Kathy Newman interview. And let me just say that it was one of the most absurd interviews that I've ever seen. She was so patronizing and assuming the whole time. She would just put words in his mouth and say, so you're saying this, so you're saying this. But he was calm, collected the whole time, and he said, no, that's not what I'm saying. And he reiterated and explained his point of view. Now, the thing about this guy is that he has such awesome knowledge of so many different subjects regarding, I think he's a psychologist, and he was a professor at, in Canada at this college, and what happened was this, you can look up the story. If you don't know the story, I'm not going to go into the details, but it was this whole controversy surrounding a bill about the pronouns you're supposed to call someone, whether it was Miss, Mrs., Ms., and the 30 other different ones, and different cisgenders and gender types, which, to people who are in that community, in the bi, trans, gay community, maybe they understand those things, but to the average person it's overwhelming, to imagine calling somebody by a certain pronoun. But it wasn't about that bill. It wasn't about the law. It wasn't really about, this is what triggered this huge influx of rebellion towards him, and then his YouTube channel exploded. And there's a lot of young, displaced, confused, frustrated young men out there who see that there's a lot of corruption going on in, say, the conservative realm or the extreme right, but also the left is so corrupted in its own way that both sides are necessary for a government to function, for people to function. I see government as an extension of our own brains, the creative versus the rational side. You can't just throw money around at everyone and expect it to just come out of thin air. Capitalism is how the world works, but it's how our nation works anyhow. But his argument against socialism is that it's a bloody thing. That basically, if you're, if you support anything left-leaning, then you're, somewhat of a bloody socialist Marxist. And this whole idea of neo-Marxism and neoliberalism, I can see why people are frustrated with the left, I'm not going to define my position because it's irrelevant. I'm not here to talk about where I stand on the issues. I'm very much in the middle, and it's very hard to be in the middle. And one of the things is that if you're not controversial, you're not going to get anybody to care. It's not going to get views, you're not going to get recognized and grow as much as he did. You have to remain controversial. My thing is, after watching 8 to 10 hours of his lectures, he just keeps repeating the same thing over and over. So in my eyes, it's kind of like he's stuck on this one aspect of things, and that's where the controversy grew. It was out of this whole C-16 bill. So he's not asked to kind of come out of his shell and delve into other subjects. But I believe he's kind of trapped in his own paradigm regarding, you know, he likes the attention. Now, I'm not trying to insult him here. To reiterate, I'm trying to get a feel for his intentions and what he's trying to accomplish. Because he has an amazing amount of followers. He has a lot of people who are really interested in what he has to say. And if you go to any of his videos, you'll see people like, this guy's amazing, and it'll have 1,000 thumbs up. I mean, a lot of people really became interested quickly. And I read that he grew to where he's making like $150,000 on his Patreon account per month. I thought, that's freaking amazing. I mean, or maybe it was a year. I don't remember what it was. The whole point is that he's doing really well off of this, and I feel like maybe he's trapped in it now. I'd love to hear his viewpoints on what we can really do to change and into, I should say, not to change, but rather to morph our species into something where it's not about equality. It's about, I mean, I guess you'd have to know the discourse that they had regarding equality, because he's not opposed to women or the whole wage gap thing. He's basically saying that that there are other factors involved which cause the pay gap, not just the fact that it's sexism. And one of his claims that he makes is a very, very factual statement, that men tend to be more assertive and demanding than women. Women are more agreeable generally than men overall, and in a lot of cases this is true, and he says that this may be part of the reason why there's a discrepancy in the workplace. But more than that, we're moving out of the sexist 50s where the women stayed at home and into a new realm. Everyone wants equality, but we're not acknowledging our actual physical differences, the fact that men and women really are different. And the same thing is we're not analyzing the differences between all different types of sexual orientations. And we're also trying to ignore the difference of races, you know, pretend like you see no color. And it's really absurd to stand on the sidelines and see all these people from the extreme left, you know, basically casting insults and threatening anybody who they think is threatening their planet or their way of life. And I see why they can be taken as almost, you know, neo-Marxist type people, because it's like, you know, fix the corruption at any cost kind of thing, not seeing that the corruption is part of the system, that it's built into it, that there's never going to be a day on this earth where every single person is equal and has the certain amount of equal money, where we all have equal treatment. It's just not the way that it works. There is a certain you know, an urgency with which life puts us into this role as a human, that you know you have a limited time to survive, and that you want to make the most of it, and in that time you're going to meet all kinds of different people with different belief systems. For me, to listen to any one person talk about things like, you know, pronouns or prenames before names, or, you know, and be so hung up on things like that, it's just kind of like, you know, what mountain do we really want to conquer? Is it the one of trivial, you know, wordings and gender types and whatnot, or is it something a lot bigger? So it's a matter of using our clout, and what I hope he'll do is to use his clout to actually speak about things that are actually important, really important. Now, he has his corner and his thing that he does, and I respect that. But I guess what it is I don't see what all the hubbub is about. I don't see what he is really offering beyond a basic course in, you know, not even a course in being human, but rather just some ideas about how we got to where we are. He's very hung up on the evolutionary reasons to why we are the way we are. And he's obsessed with hierarchies and Jungian archetypes. The whole hierarchical thing is that, and this is one of the biggest issues with him. For me, it's like the question is, do we follow social constructs, or do we follow our evolutionary minds? And what I mean by that is he claims that we've evolved with these hierarchies, but also that I think many of the people, at least that follow him, that I've seen speak about how men are being emasculated. And I think about that, and I think only a man can emasculate himself. No one else can do it. You know, it's if you want to be a man, you have to be a man in your heart. No one else can emasculate you, and nobody's trying to take away what it means to be a man. But my question I would pose to anyone who feels like men are being emasculated is, what is being a man to you? And is it compatible with what women want? I mean, we're living together in close quarters with females and males. You know, we're not here for dominating control anymore. What makes a man, the difference about what makes a man, and why you can't compare humans to nature and say, well, this is what nature does. And well, because we're different, we're conscious, we're aware. And more than that, you can look into nature and see how if you want to use that angle, you can see how birds, some male birds flash their pretty feathers, and other male animals, you know, they fight for their mate, and some of them put on beautiful displays for their mate. There's different types of ways of attracting and mating and being with someone. Now with a human, we have a whole other aspect. You're a conscious being, and you have a decision to make, and the whole thing about gender being an unnatural, homosexuality or any of that being a trait that's only human, it's not true. You know, there's homosexuality in the animal kingdom as well. Or I should say, it wouldn't be homosexuality, it would be, because homo is male, a man. So anyway, I won't go into the details, but why are people so hung up on what other people are interested in? And that's always been the thing. Because anybody who feels like they're marginalized, and especially the trans and gay community, who have been marginalized and pushed to the edges of society for so long, it's hard not to want to strike back when you finally start getting rights. I mean, why such emphasis on the fact that a person's gay? Why do they have to show the whole world that? It's because they feel like they've been oppressed for so long and they haven't been able to show that. And for a lot of people that's a huge deal, and I totally respect that. I mean, I empathize and put myself into the shoes of people who are marginalized and who maybe have conflicts in their brain and they don't understand who they are. None of us really do. So when it's a sexual orientation, that must be very confusing. But I think that it's not something that most people are concerned with. Very few people are homosexual. There's a lot of people in the Christian community and in various religious communities that are, and a lot that aren't. But generally I see that the people are getting their rights quicker than they're losing them as far as the minority groups. Minority groups are doing okay, because we're slowly building up. It's very difficult to talk about having a protected nation and protecting your borders and making sure that your own people are taken care of without wanting to help out those who are less fortunate around us. But we also realize the world is so corrupt and there's so much poverty that we can't fix it all. It's not our job to fix it all. We can't just let a constant influx of immigrants, which is the picture a lot of people have in their minds. So we become fearful. We become fearful of others, and we have xenophobia. We think that our problems are being caused by the minority groups, or that somehow a gay marriage is going to, corrupt the whole of society. I mean, and growing up during the whole time of, gays trying to get them, it's normal. Gays can get married now in a majority of places, I believe, in the U.S., but maybe not a majority. I'm not sure the actual numbers, but the fact is that wasn't true before. People are getting their rights. It's almost like we're not getting them quick enough, and the people are demanding. My thing is, everyone should have the rights to do whatever they please, as long as it harms none else. Unfortunately, what these things are harming is not society, but people's views of the world around them. The ignorant view that everybody's heterosexual, and men have their job, and women have their place in the kitchen. It's bullshit, complete bullshit. Everyone's different. We know that. So my thought is that, as someone said, Jordan Peterson seems to be an overreaction to an overreaction. And I thought that really resonated with me. It's kind of is what's going on. It's his overreaction to somebody else's overreaction. And it's time we all just shake hands and say, okay, how do we really figure out what's actually important? And I don't know if he has any hidden motives. I don't know how he feels or care how he feels about gays or trans or gender or whatever. That's not my world. I don't live in that reality. I don't understand or know anyone who is, trans. So if I did, I would probably be more involved. The people who are involved are the people who things mean things to. Not all of us are involved in everybody else's lives. And majority of people are not really even interested in what's going on, but we need to be interested if people are being oppressed. So I agree with Peterson on the idea that no, free speech should never be hindered for the fact of somebody having their feelings hurt. I completely agree. But is that really the issue? Is that really the problem that's going on? The thing I've learned is that people who want to fit in always want to find a group, and large groups form around ideas. And we all want to fit in, because we all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. The thing is, sometimes we're fighting half the population, and then we know something's wrong. If you tip too far to one side, you will fall over, and that's always stuck in my mind. If I start having a really extreme view, then I know something's wrong, because so many people wouldn't feel opposed to that if there wasn't some truth to that. You know, maybe that's ignorant, but that's how I feel, trusting that society knows better than the individual. But the louder voices and those who speak of the most controversy will always get recognized the most. And that's why people get kind of trapped in these paradigms. If a person, say, makes a YouTube channel and they start talking about just UFOs, and then all of a sudden they get 1 million subscribers, they have to keep talking about UFOs. Let's say one day they want to switch and start talking about, you know, doll making or woodworking. You know, the subscribers don't want to hear it. You know, they're there for the UFOs. I think that's why I love my channel, because I can talk about anything. But if I did have a specific channel, you know, and I'd have to stick to what I talk about, and that makes it difficult for a guy like Jordan, whose whole basis was on this whole, you know, C-16 bill. But he's also a psychologist, and I think he has a lot to offer. I think if he was a little more calm in his demeanor and didn't seem like he was unhappy. Now, I know he's had a rough life. I heard him talk about his daughter and the problems she had, and the rough time she had growing up. And being a parent, having a daughter that has, you know, has her leg amputated, that's enough to throw a person into a tailspin. I had all kinds of my own issues in life with my own health and my kids and everyone around me. And yeah, it's hard. It's all part of life, but it can make us kind of, certain things that we experience in life can make us a little bitter and resentful. And I feel like that kind of comes across in the way he talks. And so I'm urging, you know, people don't think that I'm insulting him here. I'm just hoping that he can ease up over time, because he's a very intelligent person. It's just that I think he's caught up on wanting to believe certain things are natural, when in fact, even if they are, they're not working for us. But we can't change things overnight. I am not saying that sexism should just be abolished. That's not how it works. You don't just abolish sexism. You don't abolish racism. It does not work. You have to convince the next generation of why we need to respect one another. And, you know, it's difficult, like I said, even with this nation, you know, which was founded, you know, 3 centuries ago and built by slaves. And now today, half of its, you know, the largest economy in the nation is run basically by migrant farmers, and yet we just say we don't want immigrants. Well, that's where we come from. And even if that isn't true, even if it's a white nation, as a lot of people want to believe, that's not the way the future operates, you know. White is a color, but white is not a culture. And that's what people have to realize. White is not a culture. Nor is it anything to, you know, write home about. I mean, we're living in a new era, and I can't see why people are so ignorant that they're still separating themselves. But I understand that there are differences in race, just like there's differences in men and women. Biological differences, which are minor. But it's enough to where people can use that as an excuse to enslave entire races by saying, well, they're not quite human. I can't believe that any of my ancestors or anyone's ancestors did that. And it wasn't just whites. I'm not, you know, there's no white guilt here. I've been attacked by Native Americans, not attacked, but verbally, you know, saying, you white men did this. And I'll come right back and say, fuck you, I'm a Native American too. How old are you? You know, I don't care if you have blood. See, I've always respected Native Americans. I've read about many of their cultures and had a friend who, you know, was really proud of the fact that he was only like an 8th. You know, I understand the pride that comes with culture, but you can't be racist against a culture where their ancestors did something to you. So it's not about what happened to this America then. It's about where we're at right now. And we're trying to move forward. And maybe I get a little off topic here, because I'm kind of talking about 2 things at once, you know. Basically, what do we do, as well as the whole Jordan Peterson thing, because this wasn't really specifically about him, but just about some of his thoughts and my ideas on them. You know, It's basically like this. Rational voices don't get paid. Extreme ones do. And that's why 7 years I'm still making a YouTube channel and not making any money off of it. You know, and that doesn't mean I'm always rational, but I try to be. I don't know many people who are just rational, who don't have some eccentric or extreme thing that makes them famous or popular, and I'm grateful I'm not, because I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the moderate. I want to be the referee and sit in the middle and say, okay, I'm looking at things and saying, where's the beef, you know? Sorry, if you didn't grow up in my generation, you wouldn't know that reference, but that's the, I'm sure many of you remember the Wendy's commercial. So I think that's about all I've got right there. Definitely not an attack on him, but rather his focus, and how some of these issues are really trivial. How I can see how anybody who supports socialism, it will be labeled, you know, as a complete moron, neo-Marxism and whatnot, or pseudo-Marxism, if you will, or post-Marxism, or post. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of different terminologies to people try to describe one another, and I think that we got to get rid of some of these classifications and just say, look, we want people to be fairly taken care of, but we also want people to take care of themselves. We want a cushion to be able to help those in our nation, to protect our nation, but we also want to help others, maybe in other nations who do need help, so long as, you know, things are appropriately handled. We want to know that we're safe and have walls and protection, but we also know that in this day of technology, there's a million and one ways to get into this country. Building a wall, no matter how high, it may stop drug traffic, but it's not going to improve our economy. It's not going to fix the problems that we have. No wall, no matter how high, can fix all our problems, but the thing is that so many people, intelligent people, want that wall built, shows that there's a strong desire to be protected. And how can we blame ourselves? We live in a nation, at least say in America, where you know, we feel like we should be protected. And every country feels that way, right? I mean, so that's all I've got. I'm going to go on to a different video I'm going to make. So I better leave this one reasonably short. So to all the Jordan Peterson fans out there, don't bother attacking me, because I like the guy. I still listen to him. I'm just waiting for some more meat, you know. It seems like it's getting down to the gristle and bone there, and there's only so much that you can do with what he's giving. But if it empowers you, I'm hoping that it wakes people up to the reality that things aren't to one side or another, because I don't believe he's an extreme conservative either. He's just a guy talking about things. Psychologist, what do you expect? I don't see what all the hubbub's about, like I said. I guess so I would ask only one question to any of you who are fans of him. What exactly is it that he brings to the table that you find so intriguing? And since so many people ask me, like, what is it you don't like about him? I say, well, what is it you do like about him? Because I'm really curious. And leave a comment below if you want to. I won't attack you either. I'm a neutral dude. So have a wonderful day. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.